Welcome back, everybody, to the Runaways YouTube channel with some special footage that I was able to capture out there in Queenstown, New Zealand. This is actually the top 8 POV of our friend Eugene C that I was able to record while streaming the calling. And we didn't get to play it back on stream, so I double-checked with all parties involved, and we're actually good to go ahead and share it here with some draft experts of Dan Rutkowski and Yuanji Li, who are joining me today. How are you guys?
Doing great. What's up, YouTube?
I'm doing good. I don't think we can call ourselves draft experts. All the people that we're looking at have done more heavy hitters drafts than either of us at this point.
Well, this was still like pretty inaugural, right? Because while there had been some drafts ongoing in side events, these players had only drafted once to kick off day 2, and then we're right in the midst of it for this top 8 draft. So this is the pod itself that we're looking at.
Sounds good. Let's jump in.
Let's jump in.
All right, so here we go.
Dan, what is like the first thing that you usually are looking for when you kind of take all the cards and you're trying to evaluate like what you should pick at the beginning of the draft?
Yeah, like it's a little bit format dependent, but I definitely look at equipment first and Bear Majestic slot. Check for any like anomaly, build around Majestics, like commanding presence.
Yeah, I think Eugene is kind of picking out the commanding presence. Commanding performance before it's kind of tough when you open a card that is as strong as that, particularly in limited. You know, it's pressuring the arsenal, but like to take the time and look at everything else that's passing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you want to be thinking about like what do you expect to wheel back, or really just like what are the good cards in the pack, and then when this pack gets back to you, you then receive the signal of, okay, this good card or these good cards are still here, so I'm probably safe to play this class or one of these two classes.
Yeah, off the back, I see also like a red Bear Fangs and a red Agile Windup. Red Agile Windup, I think, helps you stay the most flexible because commanding presence is a warrior only card, I believe.
Yep.
Bear Fangs is really strong in KO.
Agreed. We also see the boots that make a agility token. Ooh. I think that's a nice flexible first pick as well.
Yeah, where do you stand on like when to pick equipments? I've been kind of doing some drafts in the Runaways Discord, and I have been kind of experimenting either picking equipments earlier or equipments later. I think in this set, equipments feel very strong.
I agree. I've only done sealed so far, but especially the agility one, like either warrior or brute. Like I want an agility every single turn. So if I can pack one, pick one, an equipment that says one of the turns this game, I'm guaranteeing this agility. It just makes the deck way more consistent, I think.
Yeah, so Eugene is pulling out the red draw sword to the front. Red draw sword is really powerful in Kasai, but there's some other cards I think that are pretty strong. Ball Breaker, I think, is pretty good if you're playing Rhinar, which is, I think, pretty difficult to pull off in sealed, but can be kind of strong to leverage, you know, a second weapon slot in draft.
Yeah, Rhino would be interesting to see if he tries to pull it off. I think he does a good job of being like fairly aggressive, but also having evasion to close out the game.
Yeah.
Think about this Hardy block. That's
Hardy
interesting.
Hardy block is there's not a lot of cards that get like a clean 4 value. A lot of the test block cards get like you run the risk of, you know, giving your opponent some value back in the form of a token.
Yeah, there's something interesting to be said as well. When you take those black cards in Warrior, right, you're forced to clash with the ones that like are printed for, but Warrior is actually the least likely to win a clash in this format. So to pick block cards to get around overpower that don't force a clash is also something that maybe he's pretty tuned in.
Oh, sure. To start picking, just right? Valuing the non-action blocking card.
Oh wow, and there's also a red Pound Town. I'm a huge fan of just like 3-for-7s in this format in general. I think a lot of the play patterns end up defaulting to like throwing 2 cards, then they throw 2 cards back at you, you block, and usually I think the advantage that you get in this format is a little bit different from other formats, where in other formats you get your advantages from attacking on or higher rate. And I think in this format, because like you're kind of forced into playing this like trade style, but also
Wait, did you see what he just picked? It came from the back of the pack. Actually,
No, I
No.
couldn't see.
yeah.
All
I
right, we
didn't
have the
see-
power of technology. We can rewind.
Oh, it's a yellow agile.
Yellow agile engagement.
Great. That's so interesting. I'm surprised he doesn't take the red draw swords in the last pick. I guess he just really likes the block card.
Yeah, and I think at this moment, I think Eugene's pretty locked in on playing warrior.
Mhm.
Yep, agreed.
Which is interesting because his tendency in CC, he's actually a Leviah player. Eugene plays a really funky Pursuit of Knowledge Pummel Leviah. It's like kind of his pride and joy. But I guess he found something else that sings to him in this format because he's definitely been jamming Gasai, and he came in at first seed, right? So maybe it's just
That's
going
cool.
back to comfort.
Feeling
Also-
very comfortable.
Very notable agile engagement is the runaway spoiler card
Oh.
for heavy hitters.
Yeah, agile engagement's really strong. I think attack reactions in general in the format are really strong because
Agreed.
there's not a ton of effects that let you prevent the damage. Most of them are rare, like all the instants that prevent damage. Those are all really good cards. So if we see any of them come Eugene's way, I wonder if he's gonna identify that and pick them up.
I feel like the red draw swords is like pretty premium if you're going Kasai or you want to go Kasai. Like 3 blocks are not super common this set. I think it's like 50% of the commons.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up because kind of the point that I was trying to make earlier, where like in other formats you go above rate on attack. Here, I think you go like at or above rate on block. So like if you or rather you're trying to avoid going below rate on block.
Right.
So not having getting stuck with a bunch of 2 blocks, because a lot of the times like the cards you just end up with 2 blocks that you can't keep all the cards in your hand to play, but then blocking the 2 block is something you're forced into.
There's something else to be said, by the way, about these yellows. When you're going into Kasai, right? The yellows and reds
sure.
are something you need to balance pretty early on, because that's his second yellow agile engagement picked, right?
These yellow attack reactions like way overperformed in one of my sealed pools. I was running 6 blues, but I had like 8 yellow agile engagement type effects, and it was actually like really strong.
Yeah, if you think about it, just like attacking with a sword and then pumping it and getting 2 damage through, oftentimes you're advancing the game more than if you were throwing like a larger attack. The one downside I think to the heavy hitters attack reactions compared to Welcome to Wraith is that most of them block 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a pretty real cost when you get stuck with the agile engagements, like multiples in your hand, needing to you can't play all of them. You maybe don't have an arsenal slot. Taking blue agile engagement.
Yeah, so he's got 3 agile engagements so far. He loves that
Yeah, so
runway spoiler, doesn't he? Big fan.
Sure does. I mean, the card's great. I called it in their spoiler. I said maybe it's good, and it is. Interestingly,
he hot takes. Maybe it's good.
Well, the other guys were down on it. And I was like, I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I think this, like, if you're getting this token consistently, it's really strong. And I think in limited, it turns out that just the pump is good enough.
Yeah, I think
and the token is like mega bonus.
Yeah, I think even playable in CC maybe. I know Nixu made a Dorinthia video and he was pretty high on agile engagement. Rising Speed is kind of an interesting card.
Yeah, actually, what do you think about these rising cards overall? I didn't get to see them do too many flashing things on camera, but I heard a lot of people talking about the theory of them being really strong. Like there's the rising one where it says if you draw a card, it costs 1 less. So like idea being...
So we did see that in the last pack. He took the blue agile engagement over a red, which I thought was interesting. He had 0 blues at this point, so fair game. Attack reacts are good. I don't know. I think they're quite good in sealed. And I haven't done any actual drafts, but I did some like bot drafts where I would just like look at pack 1 pick ones, and I like am not super interested in these in draft.
Yeah, one of the issues that I think that Eugene is gonna find himself coming onto maybe in his games later on is the fact that he's choosing to prioritize a bunch of these 2 blocks over 3 block alternatives. I think the last pick where he picked I think it was another blue agile engagement or some other blue. There was also a warrior 3 block. I think it was a blue draw swords. And blue draw swords you don't really want to be playing, but I think the fact that you just like have a higher density of 3 blocks in your deck is gonna end up being pretty important.
Yeah, kind of, from what I've been seeing on like the stream and a few games I've played, it seems like having like fluid hands or modular hands where you can afford to block 1 card, 2 cards, no cards, and be able to use all of your cards either way. Just unlocking more options has been like super important from what I've seen. Like you see a lot of players on stream getting like stuck with an extra card they can't use, or having to block 2 with like 3 cards because they don't have the agility for that turn or something like that.
Yeah, something that came up a lot after streaming 5 days of this format was whenever you kind of fall behind on answering that 2-card wager hand, right? Your ability to like return in and like win that wager off 2 cards. If your deck can't do that consistently, then those cards look even better than like the printed 2-card 7. That is kind of like the standard of the 2-card hand format. So that's something to look for because there's so many 2 blocks that you can boil it down to a point where it's okay, like I'll just block my whole hand to deny this wager that I win. But then if you win that token, what is it doing for your next turn to like feed into the fact that you won the wager? So it is always important that if you do win those, you want to do it with the least amount of cards possible.
Yeah, and then having like if you have like, because there's a lot of equipment in the set, like if you get attack for 7, like being able to block 2-3 blocks in the equipment puts you like so far ahead of blocking 3 cards most of the time.
All right, and a note
so
about
pack
this.
1, how are you feeling here?
If I'm Eugene.
Yes, correct.
I don't feel that great at this point. I think a lot of the warrior cards that got passed, he has a good like number of cards, but to me it seems there should be another warrior passing into him. Like he's getting second pick out of most of the packs. That being said, I don't know if there's necessarily going to be if the draft is going to be overloaded with warriors.
Yeah, I definitely don't think there's one to his left. If there is, they are in some dire straits because he's not passing a lot. He might be the third one in a chain here. Definitely the second at least.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, seeing the cards that were passed, just like in passing, it seemed like there was a pretty high density of brute 3 blocks that were getting passed. So that deck feels pretty strong, and I have a feeling that Guardian. We didn't see like a ton of really great Guardian cards. To me, like if I'm looking at Guardian cards, I'm just looking for the red auras that give your next attack like a +5 and
big
a wager. Bop. Yeah, dude, big bop.
Big bop is so
big bop, big power.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It seems like we're probably second or third in line here.
Yeah, to be fair though, with this entire with this like draft pod, it finally was balanced for once because we actually saw some really lopsided drafts all along day 2. But the top 8 was 3 warrior, 3 brute, 2 guardian. Granted, it was 3 KO, 3 Kasai. But in terms of balanced hero choices, this was not a train wreck draft by any means, which we were all excited for in the booth quite a bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the wheel looked pretty normal.
There's that one draft that I think Nick was featured in where it was like 1 guardian, like 4 or 5 brutes.
So pod 1 had 0 guardian. Pod 1 of day 2 had 0 guardian, which is ridiculous.
Wild.
Yeah, I think the way that the cards were printed in this format, you have to kind of reshift your card evaluation on what's good and what's not. You just like don't really get that much bonus during attacking, and I think you have to be like okay with that and shift your mindset more towards blocking in this format.
Yeah. So what do we think we're prioritizing here? I think you kind of nailed it earlier, Yuanji, that I think we need to prioritize 3 blocks a little bit higher.
Yeah, I think because like oftentimes like you're gonna be able to just like get your like attacking consistent value off of playing one of your many agile engagements, getting the agility token, swinging swords twice. But I think Eugene does need to find a way to be able to put some cards in his deck that block well.
Yep. And I think he recognizes that, putting the blue draw swords to the front. He probably did his count during the review period.
Yeah, it's definitely important as well because you actually don't generate that much go again outside of agility creation, which this deck is light on to begin with. unless these
Mhm.
agile engagements like
Yeah,
trigger,
this is
right?
like
Which at this point,
agile
I think a
engagement
lot of
number
people.
6, right?
I think this is number 4.
Or 5?
But to
Four?
be fair, like most players have tracked that at this point, that blocking with an attack
Yep.
action rewards the warriors. So
Yeah.
he's looking at I think innate, like almost no innate agility ability. All of it plays into his opponent a little bit, which is a scary spot for warrior when you have so many 2 blocks, because if your
Yep.
hand like
No,
wants
you
to play
really want
aggro,
those
but you
lead with
don't have
speeds.
agility. Sheesh. Yeah. Yeah, lead with speed,
You want
exactly.
to
would be a
make
good
your
one.
own agility unconditional.
Right. I think people know that that's one of the hottest cards in the set, though.
That-
Brian Gottlieb
that
was
Oh,
saying
wager
it.
absolutely.
card- the wager card, I think warrior has like a non-attack action that like buffs your
Yeah.
next attack and lets you wager agility.
Well, that's what he needs, right? He's got all these attack reacts. He just needs some of those 1-cost wager pumps that you get to wager. I think it's what, vigor or agility.
Yeah,
If you compare those with what he's got here, it's pretty strong.
yeah, I agree. Fatal engagement is pretty nice because it does block 3 and does present,
Ooh.
pretty decent rate on attack. Especially if your
I'm kind
opponent
of afraid of that card, not gonna lie.
Yeah, if your opponent blocks entire sabers with an attack action card, then you're presenting a 2-card 8 on attack, which is really, really good for in the format where we've already established that it's hard to go significantly above rate on attacks.
Man, we see him
Yeah.
pushing that yellow lead with speed to the back. That's
Yeah, this is a pretty cool pack, actually.
yeah. I think from what I know about the format, that'd be the one I'm grabbing.
It is
Really
up the
highly, but
ante.
Fatal is
Is
still
up the
there.
ante the wage like a non-attack wager warrior
I'll
card?
pull it up.
I think so.
Oh no, up the ante is the Olympia spec.
Maybe I read the card wrong. It looked like it was a red, but
Interesting. I don't think he really considered the trade in all that much. I think that card's pretty good in Kasai as well.
yeah, it's really nice because you get to, if you have it in your arsenal, discard a card that you maybe didn't want to have in your arsenal, and then get just like a 1-card 5
Oh,
off, even if you don't have the go again.
we see the Golden Sun, the card that Koi
Wow.
just did amazing
boy.
things with, and Eugene, he could have rare drafted it.
Yeah, that card is insane.
Stamped,
Very
stamped,
powerful.
stamped Rainbow
Stamped.
Foil, just
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, just to note, completely opposite from Eugene is where Darren was seated, because that was his round 1 of this top 8, was first seed versus 8th Darren, and Darren was
Yeah.
also on Kasai.
Okay.
So they are completely opposite from each other. So that's at least where the other Kasai, one of the other 3 Kasais is. I think we
Yeah.
assume the other one is like a little bit
Yeah,
to
so-
Eugene's right as well.
So that means that Eugene's probably the 3rd Kasai in the
Yeah.
train.
Yeah, he did lose. Obviously, did lose to Darren. So
Yeah, I think looking at these packs right now, just like not even just evaluating from Eugene's perspective, we're seeing like a ton of really strong Guardian cards come around,
Mhm.
and so I wonder if somebody to the right ended up switching, like to Eugene's right, ended up switching into Guardian at some point, because we didn't get a great look, but I thought actually that Brute and Warrior felt like somewhat open, but it could also just be people feeling their way out in the first pack and just like
Mhm.
hedging and trying to stay open.
Hmm.
yeah, people are.
Yeah, I don't think there was like a super clear signal at the end of pack 1.
Mhm. And people are still very,
In terms of what was left in
very
the pack.
new to this format.
Oh
across
yeah,
the board.
absolutely. Like,
Eugene specifically had played 1 draft before day 2, and he was trying to pull people in to get a draft going like before the venue closed, and unfortunately couldn't get it together with me. At least I had to back out. I felt terrible because I knew he wanted the reps, but I mean, this man, first seed going into calling top 8 was no small feat anyway. So I'm really proud of him. I like him a lot.
Absolutely, yeah. We're not in any way trying to be critical. We're just
Oh no, I know.
enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I think Engage Swiftblade right now is like pretty decent pickup. Just as a 3 block, I would just be trying to slam any 3 block set you have in your deck. If I was Eugene, like if you
Agreed.
if you see a 3 block that your deck can play, I think that would be where my priorities go. He hasn't picked up any equipments, and that's like the other thing that I think throws you for a loop in this format, because equipments are really hard to read, right? Like in the first pack, signal wise.
He has an Embrace Adversity and a Bloodied Oval right now. Granted, I don't think you're ever playing the oval.
Yeah. Well, I just mean like he hasn't picked up any of like the really I
Right.
think the really strong equipment, the trackers that let you make an agility token
Right.
on feed. I think any unconditional blade break 1 is actually really good, and the conditional blade break 2s, I would say that they're better than if you have less life blade break
Ooh.
1s.
Man, this is finally like a kind of like the chokehold point for warrior cards, I think. Like, look at that pack. There's two picks you can feasibly take.
I was gonna ask, what do you guys think about starting stake in draft? I think it's like not the craziest pack one pick one even.
I think it's pretty good. I think I would have taken starting stake in this pack just because it blocks 3.
Yeah, it blocks 3.
Yeah, like block 3. It's the only block 3 generic at common.
Yeah.
Although,
and it's really good if you go first. I think it is a going first meta.
Yeah, as we found out on stream, you can't play it, or rather, it doesn't resolve its effect if you already have a gold.
Yeah.
I think that was misplayed quite a bit all weekend. We caught it on stream though, thank goodness.
Yeah, but I think just like being like a generic 3 block is pretty good. When you draw it in your opening hand, it's really strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this format, actually, you can, especially if you read the board state of, oh, my opponent is like low on tokens this round, I actually don't need to pressure that hard because their hand probably doesn't operate with like full card efficiency. I can just play a starting stake. Like, that can even come up mid-game, just if you read where the tokens are at, which is really interesting.
I think we are seeing one of the nice upsides of playing Kasai. It's like the Benji effect. Like, you don't mind having a bunch of yellows in your deck. So these like yellow block 3s are like way better in this deck than they would be in any other hero, really.
Oh yeah, another starting stake as well.
So you can trigger her hero ability.
I think this is a clear Hold'em pick though, right?
Hold'em is really strong.
Yeah, to see this.
Any of these 3 block
oh yeah, these are so good for him.
And there's such a good payoff when you do have the agility token because they let you cleanly, attack for 5 into 2, but then really it's like 6 and 3 most of the time because most of the cards that you're going to be blocking with are going to be attack actions.
Well, it's also a really good incentive for your opponent to now block with their attack cards because you're wagering, and then you get them with the agile engagement as well, and you just get it all.
Oh, he heard Yuanji through the screen though and is picking the equipment.
Yeah, well, I just think all of the unconditional blade break ones are just so strong.
Yeah. I think every deck just wants to pair their 2 token slots you want to get, and then you want to get the payoff for having the tokens, which is the block 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing that I was saying earlier about equipments being like kind of hard to read signal wise is that I think some of the bombier cards in this format are when you open like the specialization rare hats for each hero.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if someone opens like a like Betsy Strapo, and they pick that card and then they pass you like a big bop and like a bunch of other stuff, you kind of get led astray because they're taking objectively the most powerful card for that deck. But
I wonder if you're just supposed to always pass the bomb specialization equipment if it's pack 1.
I don't.
Just so you know that the person next to you is staying out of your lane.
I see.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't
think so either. They're too good.
Those cards are too good.
Yeah, I think I just want to be the person with a temper 2 headpiece. Just saying.
Yeah, I think that's like one too many levels deep.
Yeah, I just think it's such a strong. Like if I ever get past one, like I'm like, okay, this is my hero. Thank you. Sounds good.
Yeah, I agree. I got past what's it called the other day, Knucklehead, and in the pack 1 pick 2, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm KO.
Do we know? Can they show up in the foil slot as well? Like, can we have a pack that has 2 Knuckleheads? Because that would be super awkward.
Yeah. I'm sure similar situations can come up. I mean, like you can also get like a situation where you have like a Knucklehead and then you passing like like the brute chest that gets like +2 if you have 2 tokens. So definitely a lot of like kind of awkward situations. But back to the like how the current draft is panning out. I think Eugene had like he's not gonna run into like the situation that I think we saw on stream where people have to play correct baubles. Like he's for sure gonna have
Oh
enough
yeah.
cards to play in his deck. But I think his deck is gonna have some weaknesses
Mhm.
when it comes to blocking, and especially if your opponent says like no blocks and doesn't give like you make the agility token on your like one of 6 or whatever agile engagements that you've picked. I think it's going to be kind of difficult to optimally use all the cards in your hand because you can't
Yep.
block with them efficiently either.
Yeah, we're also very yellow heavy, which it's not like I don't know. I'm a little worried about our blue count. I could be wrong. Hopefully we can see in the
No,
review here,
I-
but
I think
I
he
don't
ended
mind.
up picking enough blues. Like,
Yeah.
I just
So,
meant
yeah.
for the case you were making there, Yuanji, like the way to dump with what we've got going on here is to play like 2 or 3 attack reacts on one attack, right? We
Yeah.
need the resources to do
Yeah.
so.
Well, I think it's kind of tough to play. So when you're playing like 2 attack reacts, I think it's like much worse because a lot of the value proposition behind agile engagement is making that agility token.
Agreed.
So like dumping 2, like we're really hurting. I think for some non-attack actions, like we need more of the wager non-attack actions.
Okay, it's only 5 blues actually. It is low.
Yeah.
Yeah, which again, I don't know. In my experience, it's you can operate off of less if you're making vigors. I think all of our attack reactions are agility makers. I know we got the one Hold'em, I think it was, to make vigor.
I believe we didn't pick the Hold'em and we picked that equipment instead.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's what the deck is honestly missing.
Access to vigor or just Hold'em specifically?
Just cards like Hold'em specifically.
Agreed.
So I think the fact that we don't have yellows isn't as important as the fact that we don't have 3 blocks.
Yeah.
So you think in pack 3, that's his number 1 goal is flesh out 3 blocks?
Yeah,
Or what's his priority metrics for
I
pack
think
3?
you just need a lot of 3 blocks because when you
Hold'em really does it all.
When you have like a bunch of conditionally powerful cards, so like let's talk about like the difference. So like let's say when your opponent doesn't have like agility token, doesn't have like an aura that they're playing and a big attack, then they have to block with attack action cards a lot of the times from their hand, and so agile engagement is really powerful. It lets you kind of convert the card and the run resource into two sword attacks, albeit in the next turn and however much damage. But when they say no blocks, then you're just throwing like a 2-card 4, 2-card 5. And what is kind of worse than that is if you're also pairing with 2 blocks, then your whole turn cycle for your 4 cards is closer to like 9 to 10 value when you really want it to be hovering around 12 at least.
All right, we see flat trackers as a...
we have some really good cards here. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, my eye jumps immediately towards that, but there's good damage prevention and like arsenal setup with that performance bonus as well.
Yeah.
But I think I'm biased towards what Brian Gottlieb was saying, which is flat trackers is like the strongest thing you can be doing on average.
Yeah, I end up blocking with that card most of the time.
Oh.
All the games that I played, I just like block with it. It's like I value blocking very high.
Yeah, I think the boots are quite good. I think I'm like I love the slap happy and that whole cycle of cards. I think they play super well in limited.
Yeah, I think if the draft had gone a little bit differently, where Eugene had more 3 blocks, I would slam the slap happy.
Agreed.
Here. But I think taking test of agility even or taking the Hold'em is really I think where he needs to prioritize.
Oh, is there a Hold'em in the pack?
There's a yellow Hold'em.
Okay. Yeah, if we could somehow get 4 red Hold'em or the agility equivalent this pack, I would actually feel pretty good about the deck.
A little majestic if you're in the rare drafting mood.
He does it. He takes the flat trackers. Love to see it.
I mean, I think it's fair. Like we need access to agility, right? If we're not blocking well, we need to find these ways to use our full hand. Yeah,
and we actually saw some really high level play with these destroy 4 tokens up in the top tables, like Koi specifically knew when he would draw into the Golden Sun turn because he pitch stacked it so early on that, okay, I break my chest now 4 vigor so that my 1 card keep throws Golden Sun. And when you have such like finite control over how to use those tokens in a format like this, because it's not conditional when it comes from an equipment piece, then it really allows for hopefully some kind of skill expression that takes you across the line. So seems like he's thumbing the blues forward in this pack.
Yeah,
but I don't know if those reds are even playable in his deck, to be fair. This Wage Vigor is.
I mean, Wage Vigor, again, it really depends on the context of how your draft has been going. So, like, if Eugene had prioritized, like, a lot of 3 blocks and had, like, I don't know, like 8 or 9 blues at this point, then Wage Vigor looks really good. But I think with the cards that he has access to, you're like, you got to draft towards what you're missing, right? And sometimes when you're, like, filling out your deck to have, like, the right balance is gonna end up resulting in a higher win rate than, you know, just trying to pick the in the vacuum most powerful card.
Yeah, agreed. I think that yellow agile windup was pretty reasonable. You saw him like kind of pause there and ponder because
just non-conditional.
It's not like an obvious pick to make, but I think he does kind of need access to that agility token. So I like that he at least paused to think about it. His deck also could use blues, so completely reasonable pick there. Another attack react.
What is in the pack? So we have vigorous engagement. Take the upper hand is really good. Probably, I think, one of the strongest warrior commons that you have access to. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of
Oh, cool.
a lot of wagers.
Yeah.
Rare, by the way, to be fair.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
that's quite a suite of choice reds.
What's the card in front of take the upper hand?
I would
Vigorous
probably take
engagement.
Edge ahead here.
Or no, up ahead. You're right. Let's pull it up.
Yeah, edge ahead is what the non-attack action lets you wage a agility token, which I think is exactly what.
Oh yeah, that'd be a great pick here. What did we take? Was it?
I believe we took the attack reaction.
We have the power of editing.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, it was either that or the.
I think we took take the upper hand.
Edge ahead. Okay.
Yep, take the upper hand.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't fault him because, you know, this card is probably like one of the strongest cards that War has access to.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if he has the support. And if this was in Pack 2, it would have been, I think, a great pick. In Pack 3, I think your deck is already pretty much like well defined. You've picked like 2/3 of your deck already.
Well,
yeah, it's also like
piece right there in Money Where Your Mouth Is, at least kind of those front pumps that allow wager, which is quite nice.
And it's very.
Oh yeah, because one of the other reds he picked up along the way was the Rising card that reduces itself if you've drawn a card. And one of the coolest combos I saw all weekend, that's just like a limited breaker, is pay for gold. You have 1 floating, and now this 6 attack costs 1. So generating gold for Kasai, if you drafted like that Rising card, is got a higher ceiling than normal. So that's a mini combo that's in his deck now, at least.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, it's definitely like very challenging to draft. In the top 8, the day that the cards first became available. So it's like hard to manage like these different requirements for the decks because you don't know them yet. Like you just got hands on with these cards like a day ago.
Yeah, agreed.
But when you take the upper hand, like you're also now like branching your deck requirements. Like before we didn't need wager, like we wanted it.
Yeah.
But now like we like need it for this card to be as good as it can be. But like you said, getting the Money Where Your Mouth is like perfect for what we're doing and what Kasai wants to do in general. Yeah,
last pick we took red Lead with Heart, and Lead with Heart into Centauri Saber to plan to next turn block like a lot of your cards and swing Centauri Saber for free is pretty strong line.
Yeah, these Lead with cards were overperformers throughout the weekend. Like I think at face value you see those 2 card 7s and think like, man, there's so much power there. But the cards that really enabled like the stronger turn cycles, even if it wasn't that exact turn cycle, bringing those tokens into next turn just with the consistency of the lead with cards was one of the most impressive things that the high level players are doing.
I'm really surprised that Eugene I think he picked the overcome boots, but he has already picked the tracker.
That's true. Yep.
So we're doubling up on like slots.
That might just be a case of just not having a perfect memory yet of what you picked. A lot of the there's so much equipment in this set as well that it could be just something there.
What do those boots do? Are they the block 2 ones, or are they?
Yeah, they're the block 2 blade break. When I believe your opponent needs to have an agility token that popped this turn.
Yeah, we actually saw a pretty funny situation in the first game of Top 8 on camera where the KO player presented monstrous, whatever it's called, monstrous veil, the headpiece, as KO. And I had to jump up and say, sorry, buddy, like it's a Reiner card.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I think the equipment pieces, there's just so many of them, right? And perhaps it's just, no one has the memory for all of them quite yet. As seen in Top 8 with that KO player.
Yeah, no, that's fair. There's I think when you're doing time drafts as well, like the timing element also adds a lot of, a lot of stress when you're going through it. So it could be hard in the moment to really manage everything at the same time.
Yeah, to be fair, this actually was not a call draft. This was just a zone draft for Top 8. But there were a lot of judges around.
Yeah. Well, just being in that environment, playing for pretty high stakes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is the first Balance of Justice extended art on the freaking line. It was big.
What do we think about performance bonus in draft? I've been seeing a lot of them going late. I think it's a card that makes probably hard to evaluate before you play a few drafts.
Yeah, I think performance bonus is kind of selectively good. It seems really good in the Guardian decks, but I think much worse in a Warrior and Brute, where trade in. So like the alternative to this card is trade in. Like they both do kind of the same thing, right? Like they let you flex your arsenal slot into getting 3 go again, but you get so many benefits off of drawing a card, discarding a card in Brood and Warrior. Whereas
this is like trade in with extra steps, right?
Yeah. The main plus is that you get access to agility tokens in Warrior and Brood. So then, like throwing this from your hand off the agility token is a nice way to utilize it when you probably couldn't earlier. Although I think Kasai can always make use of agility token by swinging weapons twice.
Well, that was a really good late pickup, Red. The Rising Energy.
I think every pack we saw one in like the last like 4 or 5 picks.
Right, yeah, that's what I mean. Like all the Rising cards, I don't know where people stand on them yet. Like the ceiling of those cards seems pretty unexplored.
Yeah. I feel pretty low on the Rising cards in general, just because I think that they're kind of a if they were in any other nice pickup at the end, red performance bonus. I think the main difference is that if we put one of these Rising cards in, let's say like Monarch draft or some other draft format where it's like Uprising, where it's like more about attacking, I think all of these Rising cards seem really strong, where they're like 2 for 6s. But I think that the way that the format plays out, heavy hitters does, where you're trading a lot, you're blocking a lot, you're playing smaller hands more often, that these cards just end up either being below rate for like a 2-card hand, or they're like liabilities because they're 2 blocks.
All right, well, that was the entirety of the draft. Any closing thoughts?
I think the deck looked pretty good. I think the end result was actually not terrible. I want to say we only had like between 6 and 8 blues by the end, but I think it was fine because we had like, I think we were probably like 50% yellow, 50% red, or like even ratio of reds to yellows, which I think is fine for Kasai. I wouldn't have been thrilled if that was the drafted deck, or the deck I drafted rather. But I would have felt like I had a legitimate chance to win all my games.
Yeah, I think Eugene has access to some pretty powerful stuff with the attack reacts, but then it just comes down to whether or not the play patterns lined up with how situational his cards are. Like if everything lines up well, then his deck can do some pretty banana stuff.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch all of his game against Darren, but it did go right down to the wire. And we saw in Darren's deck, he specifically had like the down but not out, right? Some of these crazy comeback mechanics. So that might have been the kind of difference maker in terms of like what tips one Kasai deck over the other. Gosh darn overpower. But there we go. That was the top 8 calling draft from the most recent Queenstown. There are more opportunities, people, to play this format coming up at Hartford pretty darn quick. So hopefully this helped you all get a little bit more prepared. Hopefully everyone does well in their pre-releases this week. And that'll be that for this video from the Runaways. Yeah, we're getting rid of the envelope
7
here, but
envelope
What we could do
in
here is go ahead
darkness.
and play the envelope.
All 3 pitches of Envelope and Darkness.